Today we speak about respect. Not the kind that is demanded, but the kind that is earned through character. Stoicism teaches one clear truth. No one can truly disrespect you unless you give them permission. Here are 7 Stoic rules to live by. Control what is in your power is the foundation of Stoic strength. Life constantly presents situations that are outside your control. Other people's words, opinions, moods, and actions move freely, guided by their own thoughts and habits. Trying to control these things leads only to frustration and weakness. Stoicism teaches that peace begins the moment you clearly separate what belongs to you from what does not. Your mind, your choices, and your actions are yours alone. Everything else is external. When someone shows disrespect, the first impulse is often to react. The heart beats faster, thoughts rush, and emotion tries to take command. In that moment, Stoicism asks for awareness. The insult itself is not within your control, but how you interpret it is. You can choose to see it as an attack, or you can see it as noise. This choice determines whether the disrespect harms you or passes by without effect. A calm mind refuses to hand over control to another person's behavior. Controlling what is in your power means governing your thoughts. Thoughts shape emotions, and emotions shape actions. If you allow negative thoughts to grow unchecked, they become anger, resentment, or shame. Stoicism trains the mind to question these thoughts, ask whether they are useful, true, or necessary. Most are not. When the mind learns discipline, it becomes steady even in difficult moments. Your actions are also fully within your power. You decide how you speak, how you move, and how you respond. Disrespect often invites impulsive reactions, but Stoicism values restraint. A measured response shows strength, while a reckless reaction reveals inner instability. By choosing your actions carefully, you protect your dignity. You show that your behavior is guided by principle, not provocation. Another part of control is accepting reality as it is. Many suffer because they wish people would behave differently. Stoicism teaches acceptance, not approval. Accepting that some people act poorly frees you from constant disappointment. You stop expecting wisdom from those who do not possess it. This acceptance strengthens your inner balance and prevents repeated emotional harm. Control also means focusing your energy wisely. Time and attention are limited. Giving them to insults or disrespect drains valuable resources. Stoicism encourages directing energy towards self-improvement, discipline, and purpose. When your focus is inward and constructive, outside negativity loses its influence. You become less reactive and more centered. Practicing control requires daily effort. It is not achieved once and kept forever. Each situation is a test. Small moments matter. Choosing calm over irritation, patience over anger, and clarity over confusion builds mental strength. Over time, this strength becomes natural. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself constantly because your worth feels secure. Controlling what is in your power does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending not to feel. It means observing emotions without obeying them. Feelings arise, but they do not rule. You acknowledge them, then decide your response. This creates space between stimulus and action, where wisdom lives. A person who masters control becomes difficult to disturb. Disrespect loses its sharpness because it no longer finds an open door. The mind becomes a guarded place, open only to thoughts that serve growth and peace. This inner discipline forms the core of Stoic respect, built not on fear or dominance, but on quiet self-command. Staying calm under pressure is a sign of inner discipline, not weakness. When pressure appears, it often arrives suddenly, demanding an immediate response. The body reacts before the mind has time to think. Stoicism teaches that calmness is a skill that must be practiced, not a trait given by chance. Pressure reveals character, and a calm response shows that the mind is trained to remain steady even when circumstances are difficult. Pressure often comes from conflict, criticism, or unexpected challenges. In these moments, emotions rise quickly. Anger, fear, or frustration attempt to take control. Stoicism reminds us that emotions are natural, but they do not have to decide our actions. Calmness begins with awareness. By noticing the emotional surge without acting on it, space is created for reason to guide the response. A calm mind sees clearly, When emotions dominate, judgment becomes clouded. Words are spoken that cannot be taken back, and actions are taken that cause regret. Stoicism values clarity above impulse. Under pressure, slowing down the mind prevents mistakes. Taking a breath, pausing for a moment, or remaining silent allows the mind to regain balance. Staying calm does not mean avoiding difficult situations. Stoicism encourages facing challenges directly while maintaining inner order. Pressure is unavoidable, but suffering from it is optional. The difference lies in perception. When pressure is viewed as a threat, anxiety grows. When it is seen as a test of character, strength develops. Calmness turns pressure into training. One of the Stoic practices for calmness is accepting what cannot be changed. Many pressures come from resisting reality. Wanting events to unfold differently creates inner conflict. Acceptance removes this struggle. When the mind stops arguing with reality, energy is saved. That energy can then be used to act wisely within the situation as it is. Calmness also comes from preparation. A disciplined life reduces panic. When values are clear and principles are established, decisions become easier under stress. Stoicism encourages daily reflection so that when pressure arises, the mind already knows how to respond. Calmness is not invented. In crisis, it is revealed. Another aspect of staying calm is understanding the temporary nature of situations. Pressure feels intense because it seems permanent in the moment. Stoicism reminds us that everything passes. This perspective reduces emotional intensity. When the mind understands that no moment lasts forever, urgency fades and patience grows. Staying calm under pressure also protects dignity. Losing control often leads to behavior that weakens self-respect. Calm behavior preserves authority without force. Others sense stability in those who remain composed. Calmness communicates confidence and self-mastery without words. Pressure often comes from other people's expectations or judgments. Stoicism teaches independence from external approval. When the need to please others is removed, pressure loses its grip. Calmness grows when self-worth is no longer tied to opinions. The mind becomes anchored internally rather than pulled by outside forces. Calmness requires practice in small moments. Waiting in line, handling minor frustrations, or listening without reacting are daily opportunities to train the mind. These moments prepare the individual for greater pressure. Stoicism values consistency over intensity. Small acts of restraint strengthen mental endurance. Staying calm does not mean suppressing truth or avoiding action. It means acting from reason rather than emotion. A calm response can still be firm and clear. It can set boundaries without aggression. It can express disagreement without hostility. When calmness becomes a habit, pressure loses its power to shake the mind. The world may remain chaotic, but the inner state stays ordered. This inner stability allows a person to move through challenges with clarity, patience, and strength. Guided by reason rather than reaction, do not seek approval is a core Stoic principle that protects inner freedom. The desire for approval places control of your self-worth in the hands of others. When praise becomes necessary for peace, criticism becomes a threat. Stoicism teaches that depending on external validation weakens the mind and makes it vulnerable to manipulation. True strength begins when worth is measured internally rather than borrowed from opinions. Approval is unstable by nature. It changes with mood, circumstance, and perspective. One person's praise can turn into another person's criticism without warning. Building identity on something so fragile creates constant anxiety. Stoicism encourages detachment from this cycle by focusing on character instead of reputation. Character remains steady even when opinions shift. The need for approval often leads to compromise. Values are adjusted to fit expectations. Words are softened or changed to avoid discomfort. Actions are shaped to gain acceptance rather than to reflect truth. Stoicism views this as a loss of integrity. When actions are guided by the desire to be liked, authenticity fades. Inner conflict grows because behavior no longer aligns with principle. Seeking approval also feeds comparison. The mind measures itself against others, searching for confirmation of worth. This comparison never ends. There will always be someone more admired or more praised. Stoicism teaches that comparison is irrelevant to virtue. Progress is measured against one's own standards, not against another's image. Freedom comes from accepting that not everyone will approve. Stoicism does not aim to please the crowd, but to live rightly. Disapproval does not mean failure. It often means independence. A mind that accepts disapproval remains calm in disagreement and firm in belief. Another danger of approval seeking is emotional instability. Praise creates temporary happiness, while criticism causes distress. Stoicism seeks emotional balance. When external reactions no longer control mood, emotional stability grows. The mind becomes less reactive and more grounded. Stoicism encourages focusing on what can be controlled. Approval is not one of those things. You can act with honesty, discipline, and fairness, but you cannot control how others interpret your actions. Releasing the need for approval allows full focus on effort rather than outcome. Effort builds character, while outcome remains uncertain. Living without seeking approval does not mean rejecting feedback. Stoicism values reasoned reflection. Constructive criticism can be useful when it aligns with truth. The difference lies in motivation. Feedback is evaluated for its value, not for its emotional impact. Praise and blame are both treated with caution. The habit of seeking approval often forms early, shaped by social rules and expectations. Stoicism challenges this conditioning. It asks the individual to question why approval feels necessary. Often, it is tied to fear of rejection or desire for belonging. Stoicism offers belonging within oneself. When self-respect is strong, external acceptance becomes optional. Not seeking approval also strengthens boundaries. Decisions become clearer when they are not influenced by the need to impress. Saying no becomes easier. Silence becomes comfortable. Actions align with principles rather than popularity. This mindset creates quiet confidence. There is no need to announce strength or demand recognition. Confidence grows from consistency. When actions repeatedly align with values, self-trust develops. This self-trust replaces the need for reassurance. Stoicism teaches that a good life is measured by virtue, not applause. Applause fades quickly, but character endures. By releasing the need for approval, the mind becomes lighter and more focused. Energy once spent on pleasing others is redirected toward growth and discipline. The individual becomes guided by reason and integrity rather than expectation or praise. Respond with reason, not emotion, is a discipline that separates strength from impulse. Emotion rises quickly, often without warning. Reason moves slower, requiring awareness and control. Stoicism teaches that emotions themselves are not enemies, but allowing them to rule decisions leads to disorder. A life guided by reason remains steady even when emotions surge. When faced with disrespect, criticism, or conflict, the first reaction is usually emotional. Anger wants to defend, fear wants to escape, pride wants to prove something. These reactions feel natural, but they rarely lead to wise outcomes. Stoicism trains the mind to pause before responding. That pause creates distance between the event and the action. In that distance, reason has room to speak. Reason asks simple questions. Is this worth my energy? Is my response necessary? Will this action align with my values? Emotional reactions rarely ask questions. They demand immediate release. Stoicism values restraint because restraint protects clarity. A restrained response shows control, while an emotional outburst reveals vulnerability. Responding with reason does not mean ignoring feelings. It means observing them without obedience. Emotions rise like waves, but waves pass if not chased. When the mind watches emotions instead of following them, intensity fades. This observation weakens their control. Reason becomes the guide rather than the servant. Many conflicts grow worse because both sides respond emotionally. One reaction fuels another, creating a cycle of escalation. Stoicism breaks this cycle through calm reasoning. A measured response can stop conflict before it grows. Even silence can be a rational response when words would only increase tension. Emotional responses often aim to protect ego rather than truth. The need to appear strong, right, or superior drives many reactions. Stoicism teaches humility toward the ego. Ego is easily wounded and quick to attack. Reason, however, is focused on what is right, not on how things appear. Letting go of ego allows responses that are grounded and effective. Reason also considers consequences. Emotional reactions focus on relief in the moment, not on long-term impact. Words spoken in anger can damage relationships, reputation, and self-respect. Stoicism values foresight. Before responding, reason considers the outcome. This awareness prevents regret. Responding with reason requires practice. It is not automatic. The mind must be trained daily through reflection. Reviewing past reactions helps identify emotional patterns. Stoicism encourages learning from mistakes rather than condemning them. Each moment of awareness strengthens future restraint. Another aspect of reason is understanding human behavior. People often act from ignorance, fear, or insecurity. Stoicism teaches empathy without indulgence. Understanding does not excuse poor behavior, but it reduces emotional reaction. When behavior is seen clearly, it loses the power to provoke. Reason also helps in choosing when to speak and when to remain silent. Not every situation requires a response. Silence can preserve dignity and prevent unnecessary conflict. Knowing when silence serves wisdom is part of rational judgment. Responding with reason builds inner stability. The mind becomes less reactive and more deliberate. Over time, emotional triggers lose their power. What once caused anger now causes reflection. This shift marks progress in Stoic discipline. This approach also commands respect. Calm, reasoned responses communicate confidence. They show that the individual is not easily shaken. Others sense this stability and adjust their behavior accordingly. Reason aligns action with values. When decisions are guided by principle rather than emotion, integrity is preserved. The individual remains consistent across situations. This consistency forms a strong inner foundation that does not depend on circumstance. Through reason, the mind remains free. It is not dragged by every emotional impulse or external provocation. Instead, it chooses its path deliberately, guided by clarity and discipline rather than by fleeting feelings or reactive impulses. Use silence as strength is a Stoic practice that protects inner control. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness or avoidance, but in Stoicism, it is a deliberate choice. Words carry energy, and speaking without purpose drains that energy. Silence preserves it. When faced with disrespect or provocation, silence prevents the situation from controlling the mind. Silence creates space. In that space, emotions settle and thoughts become clear. Immediate responses are usually driven by emotion, not reason. By choosing silence, the mind avoids being pulled into unnecessary conflict. This pause allows awareness to return. Stoicism values this pause because it restores balance. Many words are spoken to defend ego rather than truth. The urge to explain, justify, or argue often comes from insecurity. Stoicism teaches confidence without noise. When self-worth is stable, there is no need to convince others. Silence communicates this stability more powerfully than arguments. Silence also removes fuel from disrespect. Many acts of disrespect seek reaction. When no reaction comes, the behavior loses its purpose. Stoicism understands that attention is a form of reward. By withholding it, silence weakens provocation. Calm non-response shows that the mind remains untouched. Choosing silence requires discipline. The mind often wants to speak to release tension. Stoicism trains restraint. Holding back words is an exercise in self-control. Each moment of restraint strengthens mental endurance. Over time, silence becomes comfortable rather than forced. Silence allows observation. When not speaking, the mind can watch. It notices tone, intention, and behavior. This awareness leads to better understanding. Stoicism values understanding over reaction. Observing without judgment reduces emotional involvement and increases clarity. Silence also protects dignity. Speaking in anger often leads to regret. Silence prevents saying things that cannot be undone. It keeps behavior aligned with values. Dignity is preserved through restraint, not through domination. There is power in choosing when to speak. Silence makes words meaningful. When a person speaks rarely but thoughtfully, words carry weight. Stoicism prefers few words guided by reason over many words driven by impulse. This selectiveness builds respect. Silence does not mean passivity. It does not mean accepting injustice or mistreatment. It means choosing the right moment and method to respond. Sometimes silence is temporary, allowing reason to shape a later response. Stoicism values timing as much as action. In moments of pressure, silence calms the body. Breathing slows, muscles relax, and the mind regains control. This physical calm supports mental clarity. Stoicism understands the connection between body and mind. Silence helps regulate both. Silence also reduces misunderstandings. Words spoken quickly are often misunderstood. Silence prevents unnecessary complications. It allows situations to unfold without interference. Many problems resolve themselves when not fed by reaction. Using silence as strength builds inner confidence. The need to be heard fades. The need to prove something disappears. What remains is self-command. This self-command is the core to Stoic resilience. Silence teaches patience. It trains the mind to wait rather than rush. Waiting develops wisdom. Stoicism values patience because it leads to better judgment. A patient mind is harder to disturb. Over time, silence becomes a shield. External noise loses its influence. The mind remains centered regardless of provocation. Silence becomes an expression of mastery, not absence. It reflects control, awareness, and quiet authority rooted in discipline rather than reaction. Set clear boundaries is a Stoic act of self-respect and discipline. Boundaries define what behavior is acceptable and what is not. Without boundaries, the mind becomes exposed to constant disturbance. Stoicism teaches that protecting inner peace is a responsibility, not a luxury. Clear boundaries allow a person to live according to reason rather than being pulled by the demands and actions of others. Boundaries begin within the mind. Before setting them with others, they must be understood personally. Knowing what you value, what you tolerate, and what you will not accept creates internal clarity. Stoicism emphasizes self-knowledge because without it, boundaries become inconsistent. Consistency is essential for inner stability. Setting boundaries does not require anger or aggression. Stoicism rejects emotional confrontation. Boundaries are strongest when expressed calmly. Calm firmness communicates confidence. Emotional reactions weaken boundaries because they suggest uncertainty or loss of control. A steady tone reflects self-mastery. Many people avoid setting boundaries out of fear. Fear of conflict, rejection, or misunderstanding keeps them silent. Stoicism teaches courage through reason. Avoiding discomfort leads to long-term disturbance. Temporary discomfort is often the cost of lasting peace. Boundaries reduce future conflict by preventing repeated disrespect. Clear boundaries also reduce resentment. When limits are not set, frustration builds silently. Over time, this frustration turns into anger. Stoicism prefers honest clarity over silent endurance. Speaking once with reason prevents repeated internal conflict. Boundaries are not about controlling others. Stoicism recognizes that control over others is an illusion. Boundaries control personal response and access. They define how close others are allowed to come and how much influence they have. This control preserves autonomy. Another Stoic principle within boundaries is responsibility. Each person is responsible for their own actions. By setting boundaries, responsibility is placed where it belongs. Others are informed of limits, and the individual remains responsible for enforcing them through action rather than argument. Boundaries must be maintained consistently. Inconsistency invites testing. When boundaries change based on mood or fear, they lose strength. Stoicism values discipline. Discipline requires repeating the same standard regardless of circumstance. This steadiness builds respect. Sometimes boundaries are expressed through words. Other times they are expressed through distance or silence. Stoicism values action over explanation. Not every boundary needs justification. Over-explaining weakens authority. Simple, clear actions speak louder than long explanations. Setting boundaries also protects time and energy. Time is limited. Energy is valuable. Allowing constant interruption, disrespect, or unnecessary demands drains both. Stoicism teaches wise use of resources. Boundaries ensure that time and energy are directed toward meaningful pursuits. Boundaries also apply internally. Thoughts, habits, and behaviors must have limits. Stoicism encourages discipline of desire and impulse. Internal boundaries prevent self-sabotage. They support a life guided by reason rather than impulse. Clear boundaries create emotional stability. When limits are known, uncertainty decreases. The mind feels safer and more grounded. This stability allows calm responses instead of reactive behavior. Boundaries reduce emotional volatility. Stoicism views boundaries as an expression of self-respect, not selfishness. Respect for oneself allows respect for others. When boundaries are clear, interactions become honest and balanced. There is less confusion and fewer hidden expectations. Over time, setting boundaries strengthens identity. Actions align with values. The individual becomes predictable in a positive way. This predictability builds trust and respect. Boundaries protect dignity. They ensure that behavior remains aligned with principles. Through boundaries, the Stoic maintains inner order while navigating the external world with clarity and firmness rooted in reason, and self-command. Let actions define respect is a Stoic principle rooted in discipline and integrity. Words are easy to speak, but actions require effort and consistency. Stoicism teaches that true character is revealed through behavior, not promises or explanations. Respect grows naturally when actions reflect strength, calm, and reliability. Many people seek respect through words, demanding recognition or explaining their worth. Stoicism rejects this approach. Asking for respect places power in the hands of others. Acting with virtue removes the need to ask. Actions quietly communicate standards without confrontation or noise. Consistent behavior builds trust. When actions align with values day after day, others learn what to expect. This predictability creates respect. Stoicism values consistency because it reflects self-mastery. Inconsistent behavior signals instability. Stable behavior signals control. Actions also demonstrate boundaries. When disrespect is met with calm firmness rather than argument, the message is clear. Stoicism prefers demonstration over explanation. Walking away, changing behavior, or limiting access communicates limits more effectively than repeated warnings. Respect gained through action is durable. It does not depend on mood or opinion. Words can be forgotten or dismissed, but actions leave impressions. Stoicism focuses on lasting influence rather than temporary approval. A reputation built on conduct endures longer than one built on speech. Another aspect of action-based respect is self-discipline. Discipline in daily habits reflects seriousness. Showing up on time, keeping commitments, and maintaining composure under stress all signal reliability. Stoicism views discipline as a visible form of inner order. Actions also reveal how pressure is handled. Calm behavior during conflict commands respect. Losing control undermines it. Stoicism teaches that emotional restraint under pressure shows strength. Others notice this control even when nothing is said. Respect through action also involves fairness. Treating others with consistency and justice reflects principle. Stoicism emphasizes fairness because it builds moral authority. When actions are fair, respect follows naturally. Silence combined with action is powerful. When words are minimal and actions are clear, confusion disappears. Stoicism values simplicity. Simple actions, repeated over time, create a clear image of character. Actions also reflect priorities. What a person consistently chooses to do reveals what they value. Stoicism teaches alignment between values and behavior. This alignment strengthens credibility. Credibility earns respect. Respect begins internally. Acting with self-respect sets the standard. Allowing poor treatment through inaction sends a message of acceptance. Stoicism teaches responsibility for one's own standards. Action is the method through which standards are enforced. Another Stoic idea is endurance. Continuing to act with integrity even when unrecognized builds quiet strength. Stoicism does not seek immediate reward. Endurance over time reveals character. This endurance commands respect without request. Actions also correct misunderstandings. Instead of explaining intentions repeatedly, consistent behavior clarifies them. Stoicism values clarity achieved through conduct rather than persuasion. Living through action reduces the need for defense. When behavior is solid, criticism loses impact. Stoicism teaches that integrity is the strongest defense. No explanation is needed when actions speak clearly. Through action, respect becomes a natural outcome rather than a goal. The focus remains on doing what is right rather than being seen as right. This focus frees the mind from external validation. Over time, action becomes identity. What is done repeatedly becomes who one is. Stoicism builds identity through practice, not image. Respect follows this identity quietly, rooted in observable conduct and disciplined behavior rather than words or demands. Know your inner worth is the core of Stoic independence. Inner worth is not granted by praise, status, or recognition. It exists regardless of opinion. Stoicism teaches that value comes from character, not from external measures. When inner worth is understood, the need for validation fades. Many people tie their worth to achievement or comparison. When success rises, confidence rises. When failure appears, confidence collapses. Stoicism rejects this unstable foundation. External outcomes are uncertain. Inner worth remains steady because it is rooted in effort, intention, and virtue. Knowing inner worth requires self-awareness. Understanding personal values creates clarity. Stoicism encourages reflection on actions rather than results. Asking whether actions align with reason and principle builds self-respect. This self-respect forms the base of inner worth. Inner worth is strengthened through discipline. Discipline proves reliability to oneself. Keeping promises made to oneself builds trust. This self-trust becomes a quiet source of confidence. Stoicism values self-trust more than public approval. When inner worth is clear, disrespect loses power. Insults fail to land because they find no weakness. Stoicism teaches that offense is taken, not given. A grounded sense of worth acts as a shield. Words may be heard, but they do not define. Knowing inner worth also removes the need to dominate or impress. There is no urge to prove strength. Stoicism views the need to prove as a sign of insecurity. Quiet confidence reflects understanding of one's own value. Inner worth allows calm disagreement. When beliefs are challenged, the response remains measured. Stoicism teaches that truth does not need aggression. A secure mind can listen without fear of losing identity. Understanding inner worth also encourages humility. Confidence without arrogance is possible when worth is internal. Stoicism values humility because it keeps the ego in balance. A balanced ego resists both praise and insult. Inner worth is not arrogance or entitlement. It does not claim superiority. It recognizes equality while maintaining self-respect. Stoicism promotes dignity without comparison. Challenges test inner worth. Failure, rejection, and loss reveal whether confidence is external or internal. Stoicism teaches that hardship strengthens understanding of worth. Enduring difficulty with composure reinforces self-respect. Inner worth supports resilience. When circumstances change, identity remains stable. Stoicism aims for stability. A stable sense of worth prevents emotional extremes. Success does not inflate, and failure does not destroy. Knowing inner worth changes behavior. Boundaries become natural. Calm becomes habitual. Decisions align with values rather than fear. Stoicism sees behavior as a reflection of internal understanding. This awareness also improves relationships. When worth is internal, dependency decreases. Interactions become balanced. There is no need to seek approval or control. Stoicism values independence because it allows respect without attachment. Inner worth grows through consistency. Acting according to principle day after day builds a strong inner foundation. Stoicism emphasizes daily practice over sudden transformation. Progress is quiet and steady. Understanding inner worth brings freedom. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from validation. Freedom from emotional manipulation. Stoicism offers this freedom through reason and discipline. When inner worth is known, respect becomes natural. There is no need to demand it. Presence alone communicates confidence. This presence is calm, grounded, and stable, rooted in self-knowledge rather than opinion or circumstance.